Xavier Archer didn't expect to dive into the lake that morning, but when he saw the overturned boat and caught a flash of blonde hair slipping under the water, he didn't hesitate. "Stay with me," he shouted, swimming hard, cutting through the icy water like it owed him something. The woman wasn't conscious when he got to her, her hair tangled around her face, her life vest floating uselessly beside her. No, 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 come on. With every ounce of strength he had, he pulled her to the surface, adrenaline and panic fighting in his chest. He dragged her toward the small dock by his cabin, his arms trembling by the time he hauled her up. She coughed violently, water spilling from her mouth. Her eyes fluttered open. "Hey," he said, breathless, water dripping from his soaked flannel shirt. "You're okay." "You're safe," she blinked up at him, dazed. "Where?" "My dock," he answered. "You flipped your boat. I saw you from the cabin." She coughed again, sitting up slowly. I don't know what happened. I was just cruising along and then it tipped. You're lucky I was home." She looked at him like she was trying to make sense of what just happened and maybe who he was. She didn't look like someone used to being rescued. Her nails were manicured, her jacket was designer, and even half drowned, she looked expensive. "I'm Xavier," he added. "Xavier Archer." Her lips parted. "Zara," he waited for a last name, but she didn't give one. "Can you stand?" he asked. "I think so." He helped her gently to her feet. She wobbled and he caught her. She was shaking from the cold. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you warm." Inside the cabin, his 7-year-old daughter, Mila, peeked around the corner with wide eyes. "Daddy," she whispered. "It's okay, sweetheart. This is Zara. She had an accident on the lake." Mila clutched her stuffed rabbit. "Is she hurt?" "No," Zara said softly. "Just a little cold." Xavier handed her a blanket and motioned toward the chair by the fireplace. "Sit. I'll grab you a change of clothes. They'll be big, but at least they're dry." Zara's eyes swept over the cozy cabin, worn wooden floorboards, a small kitchen, shelves lined with kids' books and toys, and one very out-of-place woman in a $1,000 coat. "Thank you," she said, her voice quiet. "Don't mention it." He disappeared into the back, came back with a sweatshirt and sweatpants, and handed them over. She didn't ask for privacy, just disappeared into the bathroom and came out a few minutes later in his clothes, her wet hair pulled back in a makeshift ponytail. She looked softer now. "You saved my life," she said, standing by the fire. "I just did what anyone would have done," he replied, tossing another log on the flames. "Not everyone would have jumped into a freezing lake." "Well," he said, glancing at Mila, who was now curled up on the couch watching them, "I've got a pretty good reason to stick around. Can't afford to go getting hypothermia." Zara looked at Mila, then back at him. "Your daughter?" "Yeah. Her name's Mila. She's my whole world." Zara smiled. It was the first real smile he saw from her. "She's beautiful." "She is," he agreed, a little surprised she wasn't asking more questions. Most women did, about where the mom was. About how he ended up raising a kid alone in a cabin near a lake that barely showed up on GPS. But Zara didn't pry. She just sat quietly, sipping the tea he made her from the one chipped mug he had left. "What were you doing out on the lake alone?" he asked finally. She hesitated. "Just needed space." He raised an eyebrow. "Rough week," she added. He didn't push. They spent the afternoon in an odd kind of silence, Mila drawing pictures at the table, Xavier watching the snow begin to fall outside, and Zara watching him like she'd never seen someone like him before. When the sun dipped low, she stood. "I should get back." "Where are you staying?" he asked. There was a pause. "Rented a house up the ridge. I'll call someone to come get me." He frowned. "There's no signal out here," she blinked. "What? No reception. You'll have to wait till morning." "I can take you back in the truck after breakfast." Zara hesitated. "I don't want to impose." "You almost drowned," he said bluntly. "You're not exactly walking home in this weather." She gave a short laugh. "Okay." One night. That night after Mila was tucked in, Zara sat by the fire again, watching the flames. "You really live like this?" she asked. Xavier looked up from the book in his lap. "Like what?" "Out here, off-grid, just you and your daughter," he nodded. "Left the city 4 years ago. Got tired of pretending I wanted what everyone else wanted." "And what do you want?" she asked, her voice soft. He looked her straight in the eye. "Peace." She looked away like the word hit her somewhere she didn't expect. "You," she hesitated. "I don't know anymore." He didn't press. The next morning, after pancakes and Mila insisting Zara sit next to her, Xavier drove her up the ridge. When they pulled up to the massive house, he blinked. "Wait. This is where you're staying," Zara gave him a sheepish look. "I didn't lie, no," he said slowly. "You didn't." Before she got out, she looked at him. "Thank you, Xavier, for everything," he nodded. "Be careful next time." She opened the door, then paused. "I might come by tomorrow to see Mila. She'd like that." Zara smiled, then stepped out. As he drove off, he couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't just some rich tourist who'd gotten lost. And he definitely didn't expect to see her again the next morning. But she came, with muffins, and Mila cheered like it was Christmas, and just like that, Zara kept coming back. "I brought carrots for Mila's rabbit," Zara said the next morning, holding up a bundle wrapped in brown paper as Xavier opened the cabin door. He stepped aside to let her in, giving her a once-over. This time, she wore jeans and boots that actually looked like they'd touched dirt before. Her hair was pulled into a tight braid, and she carried a thermos that smelled faintly of cinnamon when she passed. Mila bounded in from the back room, still in pajamas, and took the carrots with both hands. "You remembered." "Of course I did," Zara said, crouching beside her. "Do you think she'll share with me?" "She doesn't like grown-ups," Mila said solemnly. "But maybe if you're very quiet." Xavier leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Where'd you find carrots around here this early?" "I had them delivered," Zara said, straightening. "And before you say anything, I tipped the driver enough to forgive me for making him drive up a frozen hill at dawn." He didn't say anything, just gestured toward the kitchen. "Coffee's strong. You've been warned." They sat around the table while snow drifted lazily outside. Mila munched toast with jam, Zara sipped from her thermos, and Xavier kept catching her watching him like she was trying to solve a puzzle she hadn't been given all the pieces to. "You always this quiet in the mornings?" Zara asked eventually. "No," he said. "Just don't usually have company that shows up with produce." She gave a low laugh, then tilted her head. "What did you do before all this?" He didn't answer at first. "Construction management, oversaw high-rise builds, long hours, endless phone calls. No time to breathe. And now I chop my own firewood and make pancakes for a 7-year-old. I sleep better." Zara traced the rim of her mug. "You don't miss any of it." "Not enough to go back," he said. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but Mila interrupted, climbing onto her lap without warning. Zara blinked, startled, then relaxed as Mila leaned against her shoulder. "I think she likes you," Xavier said. Zara brushed a hand over Mila's hair. "She's got good instincts." Later, while Mila built a snowman just outside the window, Zara stood beside the fireplace, arms crossed. "I'm not just here for her, you know." "I figured," Xavier said, rinsing plates. "You're not going to ask why." "I don't ask questions people aren't ready to answer." She walked slowly toward him, stopping just short of the counter. "What if I want you to?" He dried his hands and turned to face her. "Then I will." She hesitated, then drew a breath. "There's a board meeting in 3 days. I'm supposed to vote on whether we sell a division that employs over 8,000 people. They want to cut it loose, claim it's underperforming. I think it's salvageable, but I'm outnumbered." He studied her. "Sounds like a lot of pressure." She looked away. "It is, and I'm starting to think I'm the only one fighting for the people who'll lose everything." "You're the CEO," she nodded slowly. "Took over 2 years ago. My father built the company from nothing." He passed before he could see me take the chair. "And they still don't listen. Not when I talk about people instead of profits." She glanced toward the window. "I came here because I needed to remember why I care. And somehow I flipped a boat and ended up in a cabin with a man who makes his daughter laugh without even trying." Xavier leaned back against the sink. "You're carrying a lot." "I have to," she said. "No one else will." He didn't offer advice. Just looked at her the way no one in her world ever did, like he saw her, not the title. Mila knocked on the window, her face red from the cold. "Come outside." Zara stepped away, breathing out slowly. "Do you have an extra scarf?" He tossed her one from a hook by the door. She pulled it on and walked outside without another word. That afternoon, they built snow forts and melted marshmallows over the stove. When Mila fell asleep mid-sentence on the couch, Zara tucked a blanket around her shoulders without being asked. "She's lucky," Zara said quietly. "To have this." Wasn't easy getting here, Xavier replied, but it's worth it. As she gathered her things, he walked her to the truck. The wind had picked up, snow swirling sideways across the path. Need a ride back? He asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. I arranged for someone to meet me at the bottom of the ridge. I'll walk down, he frowned. It's dropping below freezing. I'll be fine. She paused beside the truck, hands deep in her coat pockets. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. If I fought for those jobs and lost, would it still mean something? Yes, he said. Because you didn't walk away. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she leaned in and pressed a kiss to his cheek, quick but warm. Thank you, she whispered. Then she turned and walked into the wind, her coat whipping behind her. Xavier watched her go until the trees swallowed her up. He didn't realize, until he got back inside, that she'd left her thermos on the counter. Xavier found the thermos the next morning while rinsing out Mila's cereal bowl. It sat on the counter like it had always belonged there, its metallic surface catching a sliver of morning light. He picked it up, thumb brushing the faint indentation near the bottom, ZH etched in delicate, almost imperceptible letters. He set it back down. By noon, the snow had thickened enough that he decided to split extra firewood. Mila padded out to the porch in her boots, bundled in layers. Is Zara coming today? She asked, squinting at the white sky. Not sure, he said. Maybe she forgot her thermos on purpose, Mila offered. Xavier drove the axe into the block with more force than necessary. That evening, just as he was about to latch the front door, headlights broke through the trees. A sleek SUV rolled to a stop beside the truck, tires crunching over the fresh layer of snow. Zara stepped out, but this time she wasn't alone. A man in a navy coat followed her, tall and lean with an expensive watch and a jaw that looked like it had been carved in a boardroom. He hovered a few feet behind her, clearly not built for the cold. This is Ethan, Zara said, gesturing between them. He's our head of operations. Ethan extended a gloved hand. You must be the man who saved our CEO. Xavier shook it, jaw tightening. I'm the man who lives here. Ethan gave a polite laugh. Fair enough. Zara glanced toward the cabin. Is Mila awake? In her room, drawing. Would it be all right if I said hello? Xavier nodded and stepped aside. As she disappeared inside, Ethan lingered. She's been different since she came here, he said, watching her through the window. Clearer, more decisive. Xavier didn't respond. She's under a lot of pressure. The vote's tomorrow. Her decision could cost the company millions or save thousands of jobs. Depends on who you ask. What's that got to do with me? I don't think she's here to make you part of this, but she's not herself when she's in the city. You've given her something to hold on to. Xavier crossed his arms. Did she tell you to say that? No, Ethan said. She didn't say anything. That's sort of the point. Zara reappeared, her cheeks pink from Mila's kisses. We should go, Ethan said, glancing at his watch. I'll walk you out, Xavier said curtly. At the car, she hesitated. I didn't expect him to come, he insisted. You don't owe me explanations. I know, but I wanted to bring your thermos back, she added, pulling it from her coat pocket. He took it, fingers brushing hers. Thanks. Before she could turn away, he spoke again. You're not just running from something, Zara. You're fighting for something. Whatever happens tomorrow, don't forget that. Her eyes softened, but she said nothing as she got into the SUV. The tires kicked up powder as they disappeared down the road. The next day passed without word. Xavier tried not to check the ridge every hour, but the silence gnawed at him. The snow had stopped, but the cold hadn't eased. That night, he sat by the fire with Mila asleep in his lap and the thermos on the table beside him, still warm from her hands. The following morning, the knock came at sunrise. Zara stood in the doorway, wind tousled and flushed, her coat unzipped despite the cold. I voted no, she said. He stepped back to let her in. They tried to corner me, she said, pacing. Told me I was risking too much, that I was being emotional, but I held the line. I showed them the data, the forecasts, the teams I'd visited. I reminded them who built the company in the first place. Xavier watched her without interrupting, and when it came down to it, 2 others changed their vote. The division stays open. For now, he nodded once. Good. I couldn't have done it if I hadn't come here, she said. Without seeing what life looks like when decisions aren't made in glass towers, she moved closer, stopping just short of him. I've spent years pretending I didn't need anyone, that I was stronger alone, but when I nearly drowned, I didn't see boardrooms or quarterly reports. I saw your face. And I've been seeing it ever since. Xavier stayed still, his gaze steady. I don't know what this is, she said, but I know I don't want to walk away from it. He stepped forward, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. You won't have to. She leaned into his touch, eyes closing. Then don't make me leave, she whispered. Stay, he said. As long as you want. She kissed him then slow, certain, like she'd made another decision she wasn't about to take back. The following week blurred into something neither of them had expected, routine, but not ordinary. Zara started showing up after sunrise, sometimes with a bag of groceries, other times with nothing but wind in her hair and that look in her eyes that made Xavier's chest tighten. She stayed for meals, helped Mila with her long division, and once even fixed the leaky faucet under the sink without asking. Xavier didn't mention how that surprised him. He just handed her a towel when she emerged from under the cabinet, damp and quietly triumphant. On Thursday, a call came in through the landline, the only phone in the cabin, an unfamiliar male voice asking for Zara. She stepped outside to take it, her expression unreadable when she returned. Xavier waited until Mila was out of earshot. Everything all right. They want me to speak at the foundation gala next weekend, she said, folding her arms. It's for the education initiative we fund. Normally, I delegate that to one of the VPs, but this time, she hesitated. I said yes. He nodded, pouring her a cup of coffee. You going alone? She looked up. I was going to ask if you'd come with me, his brow lifted. To a black tie gala, it's in the city, one night. You and Mila could both come. There's a suite I keep at the hotel for events like this, 2 bedrooms, big windows, too fancy for anyone's good. I don't own a tux, he said. I'll take care of it, she replied. Just say yes. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. All right, she smiled, not like someone who had just gotten her way, but like someone who'd been holding her breath and could finally exhale. When they arrived the following Saturday, the city was louder than Mila remembered. She pressed her nose to the car window, wide-eyed as the skyline rose around them. The hotel was a towering glass monolith, with staff waiting before they even stepped out of the vehicle. The bellman greeted Zara by name. No one blinked when she walked through the lobby in a tailored navy coat, Xavier beside her in the charcoal suit she'd chosen for him days earlier. The suite was all velvet armchairs and gold trim. Mila ran from room to room, laughing at the size of the tub in the master bathroom. Xavier stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring down at the noise below. Zara appeared beside him. You all right? It's a different world, he said. It's just a building, she replied. What matters is who's in it. Later, while Mila stayed in the suite with a trusted sitter Zara had arranged, they descended to the ballroom. The crowd inside sparkled with diamonds and ambition, men in custom-tailored suits, women in gowns that shimmered like mercury. Zara tucked her hand into Xavier's arm, and heads turned, she leaned in close. Let them look. A woman approached them near the champagne fountain, all red lips and sharp cheekbones. Zara, you look devastating. Vivian, Zara greeted coolly. This is Xavier. Vivian's eyes swept over him. You've been hiding him. Zara's voice never wavered. I wasn't hiding, I was living. Vivian arched a brow, then turned away with a faint laugh. Xavier let out a breath. Old friend. Something like that, Zara said. She's on a different page. The speech came midway through the night. Zara stood beneath a crystal chandelier, the room going still when she took the microphone. My father believed in potential, she began. Not just in numbers or projections, but in people. In second chances. In the idea that someone's circumstances didn't define their worth. Xavier watched her from the back of the room, surrounded by strangers who didn't know she'd once watched cartoons on a couch with his daughter or chopped firewood in borrowed gloves. She continued, her voice steady. I've spent most of my life trying to be the version of me that looked good on paper. But lately, I've learned that the best parts of us can't be measured. They're found in quiet mornings, in small kindnesses, in the people who see us when we forget how. The room erupted in applause. She stepped away from the podium and walked straight toward him. Let's go home, she said, slipping her hand into his. They left before dessert. Back at the cabin, things shifted. Not suddenly, but with the kind of certainty that comes from choosing something over and over again. Zara started staying longer, sometimes overnight, always leaving a note for Mila beside the breakfast cereal. They built a greenhouse together behind the cabin, a project Mila insisted on naming the secret garden. Zara got dirt under her nails and didn't complain once. One evening, while Xavier was reading by the fire and Mila was asleep, Zara sat beside him, her feet tucked under her. "I've been thinking," she said. "Dangerous," he teased. She nudged him. "I want to make something real here, not just visits and borrowed sweatshirts." He set the book aside. "I have the resources to expand the community school down the ridge. They've been sending kids to a broken building and calling it education. We could change that, permanently." "You're talking about staying. I'm not built for half-hearted," she said. "When I love something, I build around it." He turned to her fully. "You love this," she reached for his hand. "I love you," he didn't hesitate. "I love you too." She smiled, then added, "Also, I'm buying the lot next to you. I'm going to build something small. Something with a porch. And a view of the lake, obviously." He kissed her then, not like the first time, but like the 100th, a quiet promise sealed in the cold mountain air. A month later, the cabin was filled with laughter and the smell of wildflowers. Mila danced barefoot across the porch, a crown of daisies in her hair. Friends from both their worlds gathered by the lake, champagne in hand, as Zara stepped onto the wooden deck in a simple ivory dress, her eyes locked with Xavier's. They didn't need a grand cathedral or a ballroom chandelier. They had the lake, the wind, and the life they built from a single moment of rescue. And that was more than enough. Zara stood barefoot in the grass behind the cabin, watching Mila weave between rows of wildflowers with a mason jar half filled with captured fireflies. The sun had just dipped behind the ridge, casting a soft amber glow across the lake, and the air held that early summer stillness that made everything feel suspended in time. She exhaled, her shoulders finally light, her pulse steady in a way it hadn't been in years. Xavier walked up from the trail, sleeves rolled, a small wooden crate in hand. "She talked me into building her a lemonade stand," he said, setting it down near the porch. "Tried to negotiate a 15% commission." Zara laughed. "She's been stealing negotiation tactics from my calls, hasn't she? She's going to outmaneuver us both by the time she's 10. Zara reached for his hand, linking her fingers with his. "I want to show you something." He followed her to the side of the house, past the greenhouse and the stacked woodpile, to where a small, newly poured foundation framed the edge of the clearing. "I didn't think you were starting this until fall," he said. I moved the schedule up. The design's minimalist 2 bedrooms, a reading nook, nothing over the top, but it'll have a window facing your cabin. Mila already picked the paint color for the front door. He looked at her, eyes steady. "You're really building it." "I'm not going anywhere, Xavier. I've lived my whole life trying to prove something to people who were never going to understand me. This is the first time I'm choosing something without compromising who I am." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small, folded envelope. "There's something else." He opened it, scanning the page. "You're launching a foundation for long-term job preservation, not just emergency funding, but real infrastructure. Training programs, community reinvestment. The board's already signed off. I'm not stepping down from the company, but I'm restructuring my role. Fewer meetings, more impact." He looked at the document again, then back at her. "You're rewriting your whole world. I finally realized I don't want to build a legacy alone. I want to build a life with you. And with Mila." She hesitated, then added, "I spoke with her school. She's on the wait list for the fall term at the community academy just down the ridge. Small classrooms, music afternoons, lots of project-based learning." He tilted his head. "You already enrolled her?" I asked her first. "She said she wanted to stay here as long as she could still eat pancakes on Sundays." He pulled her into his arms, pressing his forehead to hers. "You're making this real." "I already did. Now I'm just tying the corners." The next morning, they drove into town in Xavier's truck with Mila wedged between them, humming a song she'd made up on the spot. They stopped at the local bakery for cinnamon rolls and picked up paint samples at the hardware store. Everyone they passed greeted Zara like she'd always been there, no longer the outsider with city polish, but someone with roots and intention. At the checkout counter, The woman behind the register leaned in with a smile. "You're the one building the new place near the lake, aren't you?" Zara nodded. "Good. That spot's been waiting for the right kind of people." Back at the cabin, they spent the afternoon painting the lemonade stand pale yellow while Mila added glitter to the sign. When the sun dipped low, Xavier lit the fire pit, and they roasted vegetables and bread over open flames, wrapped in blankets as the stars blinked alive above them. Later, after Mila was asleep inside on the couch, Zara sat beside Xavier on the porch swing, her head resting against his shoulder. "Have you thought about what this summer's going to look like?" she asked quietly. He caught a strand of her hair between his fingers, brushing it back. Long mornings, fresh bread, a half-finished puzzle on the kitchen table. You and me fixing things that don't really need fixing just to spend the time. And Mila selling 5-cent lemonade to hikers who don't carry cash, he chuckled. "She'll take IOUs or barter with cookies." Zara turned to face him, her expression suddenly serious. "Xavier, I want us to be a family. Not just the kind that shares meals, but one that shares everything. I want to wake up beside you every day. I want to plan futures and birthdays and snow days. I want all of it with you." He didn't speak at first, just reached into his back pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it, revealing a ring that glittered under the porch light, simple and elegant with a single brilliant stone. "I was going to wait until Mila was awake," he said, voice rough. "But I can't." Zara's breath caught. "I want to build this life with you. I want to be the man who stands by you when you're in boots elbow-deep in garden soil or in heels commanding a room full of executives. I want both. Because you're not just the woman I love, Zara. You're the woman I believe in," she nodded, eyes shimmering. "Yes. Yes to everything." He slid the ring onto her finger and she leaned in, kissing him with a certainty that brought everything full circle from that first rescue on the lake to this quiet, extraordinary moment in the dark. The wind rustled the trees, carrying the scent of pine and earth and something new. By the time Mila wandered out, sleep still in her eyes, the ring was already on Zara's hand, and the two of them were wrapped in each other beneath the stars. Mila climbed onto Zara's lap without hesitation. "Did I miss something?" Xavier kissed the top of her head. "Just the start of forever." The next season came with the sound of construction and the smell of sawdust. Zara's house rose beside the cabin, its windows catching the light from the lake each morning. Mila planted tulips along the walkway, declaring them guardians of the porch. By the time the snow returned, the walls held laughter, warmth, and a kind of peace none of them had known before. Zara worked part-time remotely, her schedule built around school pickups and greenhouse harvests. Xavier taught woodworking classes at the community center, and Mila insisted on hosting weekly movie nights with popcorn and homemade signs. They didn't need chandeliers or penthouses to feel rich. They had each other. They had a home where love wasn't just a promise, it was the foundation, the walls, the roof, and the light that filled every room. And in that quiet stretch of land by the lake, a life unfolded, a love story not built in haste, but carved with intention, steady as sunrise and just as inevitable.